We pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Well, thank you all for coming tonight. Okay. Has everybody looked at the minutes from the October 14th meeting?
Yep.
Any discussion, corrections? Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of October 14th from the park board.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, Bruce, you're the next one on the agenda, so you get to.
I'm gonna pass these out right away. Some homework for you.
Oh, no.
The,
Homework.
a couple of years ago, or it hasn't even been that long ago, came before you and asked you to adopt a mission statement. It was a quote that I had heard at a forestry meeting in Texas of all places. And it perfectly fit why I gave this property to the county. And that quote, and we're using that, and you adopted it as the mission statement. I appreciate that. But the quote was, in the end, we will conserve only what we love. We will love only what we understand, and we will understand only what we are taught. And that was exactly why I gave this property to, it just fit so perfectly that I just couldn't wait to get in here and get it put in as our mission statement. And the, this tonight's request in this book that I just gave out is kind of a follow-up to that. This is the Alvin Leopold's Sand County Almanac. You can see it's not a real big book. It's totally readable. It's a really good read. I've had several people. Have you read yours yet?
I started it.
It's a great book to read. But it's a very famous book, and Alvin Leopold was one of the 2 or 3 most famous foresters we've ever had in the United States of America. And he wrote this book in the late 1940s, and he died, and it was published the following year, 1949, the year I was born. I became acquainted with the book, the Sand County Almanac, when I was at Purdue University in 1970. I was a junior, and I had the pleasure of taking a wildlife course. It was taught by Durwood Allen, who was almost equally as famous as Albert Leopold, and Purdue was lucky to have him as a professor, and he taught the course on wildlife management. And one of the assignments he made during that course, he wrote his own textbook, by the way, A Wildlife Legacy. He was quite the author himself. But one of his assignments was for everybody to read that book during the course of the year. And so that's pretty high praise from somebody like Durwood Allen. And so I read the book. It's probably the only book I ever read in my life, believe it or not. That sounds pretty bizarre since I wrote my own book, and it's in the hands of the editor and publisher right now. So it's weird that I've only read one book in my entire life, and this is the one. And now I've read it a second time. So I read the same book twice. But the first time I read it was for that course, and I remembered reading it, and then well, Alvin Leopold was a forester who worked for the U.S. Forest Service during the 1920s and 30s primarily, and he was a famous forester just for that alone. He basically wrote the first management plan for the Grand Canyon and the Colorado River. He went on and did a lot of other jobs up through the north and part of the west, northwest part of the United States in the mountains, and had a great career. And he eventually got hired by the University of Wisconsin to teach the very first college credit course for wildlife management at Madison. And so he was the first professor for that in the nation for that sort of course. And while he was there, he bought this, what's known as Sand County Almanac. Sand County. It's actually not Sand County. He calls it that because it's like Starke County. It's sand, you know. And anyway, so he called the book Sand County. It's actually Salt County, which is just just to the north. It's just, an easy drive north and a little bit west out of Madison. And he would go out there and spend weekends and holidays and his free time out on the farm in this little shack that they had out there, he and his family. And so the first half of this book is him writing stories about being out there on the Sand County on prop farm that I would call Starke County Sand County too. I think it's a better, more appropriate name than Starke actually. But anyway, so the first half of the book is, and the guy's an incredible author. It's almost like poetry reading some of it. Even if you don't care about the subject, it's really a good read. So the first half of the book tells, and then the second part, he talks about some of the experiences he had during his career out west. And those were ones that he felt were appropriate. He's telling stories there too, but he felt they was appropriate for the last part of the book, which is when he gave his philosophy on management and conservation and the conservation ethic. He actually wrote the book. One of his books was on the conservation ethic, and he wrote several books. This was his last book, though, and this was his most famous book. And anyway, so I read the book, and I remembered as I went through my ownership of what's now the Starke County Forest and the 26 acres that I kept. I didn't give all my ground to the Starke County. We kept 26 acres there. So as I went through I was out there, I've been out there since 1973, so I think that's 52 years. And so I was there longer than Aldo was on his. But I always remembered back in my mind and remembering this book, how similar this is. This reminds me of Aldo Leopold's book that I read when I was in college. And I would remember that as the years went through. Anyway, so last year I was reminded of that again, and I decided I had a little time now, I'm retired. I'm going to get that book and see if I can read it again. And I did that this fall. And it was just amazing to me how similar what I have there and what he is describing in the book. It's like he's describing the Starke County Forest. And it's not, I mean, even though that's further north, the ecology is almost the same.
Yeah.
And he's like the father of ecology. He kind of almost invented the word, actually. That's one of the things he's most famous for is the environmental ecosystem and the ecology, the whole idea of that and the conservation ethic are some of his most famous things. Well, anyway, so he described all this in the stories. You can read those stories, and I lived them on the Starke County Forest all these years, which is why I kept kind of going back to this book in my mind. I was actually living that book. I had no clue as to how closely I was living this book until I read it this fall. And it was just like a perfect match. The soils are the same. We have the marsh. We have the same timber. We have the same wildlife, the same flowers. And I've sat out there on benches and done exactly. In fact, some of the stories I wrote for my book was out there on the Starke County Forest. It's just like he wrote in his book. It was an incredible match. And I'm thinking, this is so enjoyable reading this and making these associations to the Starke County Forest. And I thought, wouldn't this be great if we kind of adopted this as kind of like our symbol or our logo or whatever you want to call it for the Starke County Forest? To advertise this book as a recommended read for people to go out and enjoy the Starke County Forest. Because when you read that book, you'll see that he has a totally different way of enjoying and appreciating a property. And it comes through in almost every story he tells, especially in the first half of the book in particular. If somebody read this book and then went out to the Starke County Forest, it would just be a totally different and much more rewarding experience. Especially if they realize that I'm telling them because of my experience that they're almost identical. It just the wildlife, we still have woodcocks out there, for gosh sakes. Who ever heard of that around here? And the marsh. He has the biggest story he told about the marsh was actually one that was out west. But his philosophy and his whole appreciation of marshes and the birds that are in it and the plants are just a perfect match for what we are doing by saving that marsh and protecting that marsh and trying to keep it pure. It's just after reading this book, I realized this wasn't just a casual read. This changed my life. I didn't realize it until I read the book this fall and realized how much of a perfect match it was to what I've been doing the last 55 years, and also giving this to the county. And the reason that I gave it to the county, it's one of his recommendations in the back part of the book. That, of course, I didn't remember that specifically, but my brain must have been telling me that we accomplished. How do we accomplish this? Well, we got to educate people. Well, that's exactly what my brain told me when I saw that quote that we made our mission statement, and it was almost freaky for me to read this and see how much of a perfect match what we're doing out here in the Stark County Forest and what he's advocating. 55, that book's 55 years old, and yet it's still right on target for what we need to be doing today. Actually, I think things are a little bit more rosy, actually. I think there's a lot of been accomplished that he suggested. So what am I got? What do I have in mind? What I want to do with this, like I say, is simply put a little flyer on the kiosk out there suggesting that people read this book. And over the years, just look for opportunities to draw that comparison, to draw that, to make that connection between what we have here, since it's so identical. It's just mind blowing how close what that first half of that book is to now, and the philosophies in the second half of the book, is exactly why I gave it again, just like the mission statement that we adopted. So I just want you to read that book, and if you don't want to read it, give it back to me because I bought those books.
Yeah.
They're not expensive. They were like $16 or $18 a piece. That's what I paid.
I think that's an expensive book.
Yeah, so it's really that expensive. Well, like I said, they've sold millions of them, so you could go find it in the library.
What did he do with the property he was talking about in Wisconsin? Did he?
Well, his family still has
Has
it, still in the family. They created a Aldo Leopold Foundation,
Oh,
and that's where I bought these books. You might get them a little cheaper through Amazon.
mhm.
Is that what you know?
No, they're $2 more on Amazon. I looked.
Then
I found a cheap copy, but it doesn't look like this. And it has other essays by Aldo Leopold in the book that I bought. I'll show it to you.
okay, so he did a lot of writing. And this is the Aldo Leopold Foundation that I brought this through. They're right up there in Salt County where
Where his property
and they
is.
operate out of the property, I think, actually. And they promote what he's preaching, which is basically what all of the modern day number one people in our field are advocating to this very day. I mean, he hit it right on the button, how we should be thinking about it, appreciating it. I mean, he gets kind of deep into some of it, but it's exactly what I've been thinking about. Who really owns the ground out there? Do we really own it? Well, we own it based on the courthouse, but you ask that bird that's sitting out there on that branch who owns that property. He gets into those kind of things pretty neat, and he's just an excellent writer and philosopher on that stuff. So I would like to look for opportunities over the next how many years I have left to promote and try to draw that connection between the Stark County Forest and Aldo Leopold Sand County Almanac, because I even without rereading this, I've always thought, man, this has got to be Sand County Almanac. It turned out that it was so close, I couldn't believe how close of a match it was. So anyway,
Well, thank you.
yeah, read the book and I'll expect a book report.
Do we get? I was thinking, Bruce, that when we do World Environment Day and you talked about maybe we have those for sale, that maybe toward the end of the summer, we have like a book discussion, maybe at the forest or at the beach house or somewhere like that. Mhm.
Yeah, basically, what I want to give this same talk I just now gave briefly at lunchtime at the World Environment Day. Just do things like that. Have a thing where you can order it and make sure that when somebody's reading it, they just understand how unbelievably close this is to that. That they're just about anything he talked about, you can do exactly that with the same plants, the same animals. You can sit on one of those benches and ponder and go way deeper into it than just being out there in a beautiful place on a beautiful day.
Does the library have this book?
I can't imagine that they don't. I'm sure they do. I haven't gone to the library, but I can't believe that they don't.
Okay.
The
very
The
good.
only thing I missed was that he died the day about the time I was born, and I think I got some of his spirit. I honestly do, and that's kind of weird, but Durwood Allen, who he was still a professor emeritus. I taught a course at Purdue for 6 years, and consulting forestry. That's what I did. It was part of a 3 credit course, and I would teach it for 3 hours every Wednesday night. The juniors and seniors in forestry at Purdue. And one night I'm going down the hallway, and he still had his office there. Durwood Allen still had an office, and he wasn't in it because it was like 9 at night. But I talked to the main professor for my course that I was teaching, and he said, yeah, he comes in about once a week at least. I said, well, I gave him my book, Wildlife Legacy, the book that he wrote that I kept. It was the one he used as a textbook. And I asked him if he would sign it, and he did. But I would ask Aldo Leopold to sign that for me, but it's too late for that. But Durwood Allen signed it to a fellow naturalist. I just, surprise possession.
Very nice.
Yeah, that was really good. He obviously didn't remember. I was the kid that was having trouble staying awake because I worked in the dormitory too late at night in the kitchen. But he learned, he knew of me because I was teaching that course. So that was pretty neat. Anyway, so I'll go ahead and give a rundown of some other things here. I got a list. First thing, it's the one I forgot to put, but did you tell them about the walnut?
I told them unofficially. Everybody knows.
Well, the tornado went through and blew down a bunch of trees. Mostly there was 5 patches of white pine. There's like 6 or 8 white pine. The tornado this spring obviously kind of touched down or microburst or something. But all the damage was in like 5 spots, and it was kind of the size of this. The spots were smaller than this building, and so it just broke off and blew down every tree in that spot. And this walnut tree was on the edge of one of those spots, and it was young. It's one that's going to be providing the income for this Starke County Forest at big time someday. About the time I'm gone, but it was about this big, about 14 inches diameter. So I cut a log out of it and sawed it up, thinking we could use it for something maybe. And it spent about half the summer in the kiln. I got a solar kiln, and then Amy gave me a tour of the beach house, and there's that hearth over the fireplace, and we decided it would be neat to use some of that walnut to make that spice that up a little bit. And she's picked out a board, and so we need to make an appointment, Amy and I, to go fit it, and maybe I can get started on actually putting it together into it would be just like a box that you put over the concrete that's already there. So it'd be a mantle over it. And it would be out of the Starke County Forest. And I think the one she picked out, there was 2 or 3 pretty nice boards, but the one she picked out was really nice. And then also a big white oak died this year in another part of the Starke County Forest. And I hope it wasn't the oak wilt, but it might have been. I'll find out next year probably whether the trees around it start to die or not. But it was a very nice white oak, and it wasn't veneer quality, but it probably was what we would call a stave log. It's pretty good quality. It's one they've used for whiskey barrels. You can't have knots and defects because it would leak. So it takes a pretty good log for that too. And anyway, so I sawed that log tree up. It was about a 24-inch tree, pretty nice sized tree. And so there's in the trust agreement that I have that I signed between me and the county when I gave this to the county, the timber sales go to help pay the bills. I think we got like 30,000 in the bank or something like that to use as needed at the moment. And by the way, that's part of Pablo Leopold's philosophy too, is that, and that's why we gave it, so we could show that you can have a beautiful environmentally sound property and still make it manage it economically and still have a beautiful ecologically sound environmental place. But anyway, so I gave myself the right to use any timber for myself. Anything sold goes into that account. But if there's a tree out there that I can use, then I can use it. And because I used it for a lot of furniture in my new house. And anyway, so I didn't really have a specific use for this white oak, but I cut it and sawed it. And it's in the solar kiln. It was in the solar kiln about half the time it needed, about half the summer. It could be, it's probably the equivalent of being air dried at the moment. It would be middle of summer before it would be kiln dried now, next summer. But anyway, so there's white oak in the kiln that I don't have a specific use for. I'll eventually use it for something. I don't know what. But if the county has another use, like she has for the mantle of the fireplace, got some beautiful white oak. You're welcome to it. If you needed like a conference table for that big room in the middle of the beach house, this white oak would be one beautiful. It's beautiful white oak. I knew it was, that's why I saw it. But there's some big, the boards are like 12 inches wide, 8 feet long, and it's inch thick. And they're number one grade stuff. And like I said, if you had some kind of a master carpenter that wanted to make you a really nice conference table or something for the beach house, it's there. Just let me know, because I would use some of it, but I won't need, it's more than I need.
Right.
Yeah, and it's your wood. Or it's my wood, whatever we decide. The trust agreement makes it either way. But I wanted to make sure you knew that was there. It's beautiful lumber. It would make one heck of a beautiful table. I mean, it would be really a top-notch table. But the only thing I would ask is you put somewhere on there that this was from the Starke County Forest.
Yeah, I want to get an engraved plate for the mantle and whatever.
Yeah, and if you want to come out sometime or whatever, or I can, but it's, like I said, it's just beautiful white oak, and most boards are that wide and 8 foot long and an inch thick. It would be perfect for a table.
Good.
So just as long as you know that that's there and you're welcome to it, if you want. As far as earlier this year, or it was late this summer. And I found out about the Audubon Society. I always wanted to get them involved out there somehow. And I finally found that they have what they call the Northwest Bird Trail. And they take Indiana and divide into sections. We're in the Northwest section. And they have a bird trail that's on the internet. And people, Audubon Society can look at these different properties that, and it's places that they can go to watch birds. And they're recommended by the Audubon Society to go there. Most like the Duneland National Park, the Potato Creek State Park, things like the Winnemucca, Tippecanoe River, they're all on the bird list, a bird trail. And you has to have public access, and it has to have something for these guys to look at. And I thought, boy, that'd be a perfect thing to have for the Starke County Forest. And so they were within a few weeks of coming up with next year's list. They had applications and it was going to run out. Actually, in 1 week, by the time I found out, I had 1 week to put in an application. And they up their list every 2 years because they publish this list and stuff. So they don't even publish it every year. So they have, and they have a thing they call an eBird. It's a website through Cornell and it's a common website for bird watchers. And what they can do is when they go to one of these places that are on the bird trail, they can then get, and they spot a bird and they look on there and it's not on there, they get to put it on the list. And it's like, becomes like a game to these bird watchers. Can I get my name on it? Can I get one of these birds and add it to the list of wherever I'm going? And so it greatly enhances their desire to go to a property because they have a chance of finding a bird that nobody else has found on there yet. And we weren't on the bird list. We're on the eBird list. We weren't on that. And so that is why they did not accept us on this year's list. But actually it turned out to be within the same 1 or 2 days of when they came out with the list of who they accepted. In fact, they had some 40 applicants and they only accepted 2. Right? So it wasn't anything shameful that we didn't get accepted. But one of the guys that's on that committee that decides this, and he's in charge of this eBird list. And he'd seen my application. He wasn't familiar with the Starke County Forest. That's why you get on a list like this, people find out about it. And so he came out and he saw 22 different birds. First time he was out there, he identified 22 separate birds just one walk through the Starke County Forest. I don't know how long he was there. And he was so excited that immediately wrote the chairman of the Audubon Society for Indiana, who was in Peru, South America at the time. And he immediately wrote him and said, told him this, he said, I immediately started an eBird list for him, which is the only reason he didn't get accepted. He said, I immediately started that list and put all 22 birds on there. And not only that, I called it a hotspot. He said, I gave it a special hotspot designation for, this is where you gotta go.
Right.
This is the hotspot. And so we went from being rejected in one day and getting that kind of news the next day. So I'm pretty, we wanted to make it part of the program this year. Our World Environment Day, we was hoping that we would be inducted onto the bird trail list, but we didn't get accepted. But we're gonna make it part of it anyway, and we're gonna have the theme of birds, Audubon, the bird watching theme is gonna be our thing this year. That's gonna be our theme. Mark Crom, who's recently retired science teacher here and quite the birder himself, he and I have already rehearsed our hike. We're gonna give a hike in the morning and a hike in the afternoon. I'm gonna go through and we've identified 5 sites that are all different as far as what they are and how we manage them as the forest.
Okay.
I'm gonna say how we manage this and why, and he's gonna then chime in right behind me and say how that affects the birds and what birds we're favoring and how we're improving the bird habitat and what to look for if you're here. So I'm gonna say while we're managing it, he's gonna tell everything he can about the birds.
So did he actually list the 22 types of birds he saw to you, or did
You
he?
can get on the website, sign up for the eBird website, and you'll be able to look it up.
Okay.
It's already listed. If you
So
go,
he did play them a lot.
he wrote them all out. He submitted. I haven't looked because I don't have the eBird list on my website, but go sign up for eBird and look up the Starke County Forest, and who knows how many's on the list by now.
Good.
But that was almost a month ago,
All right.
and he started right out with 22. Mark Crom came up with 135, and he was going to go ahead. He hadn't put them on the eBird list. That was the problem.
Right.
And so he was going to then go through and put the 135 that he had identified back there on the eBird list so that we would qualify.
Right.
But this guy beat him to it.
Yeah.
So we're not going to put our 135 on that Mark Crom already found back there because this is like bait to get these Audubon people to
Come out and take a look. Yeah. Speak for themselves.
It's like Pokemon Go.
I think that's
It's a good approach.
let them
Yeah.
be the heroes here. So yeah, but we knew it's a neat place. So that's how we're gonna use that. He's gonna talk about the birds and what that site looks like and what our management does for them. And by the way, that same tornado damage that we did, one of the spots we're gonna stop and talk about, I told you we cut the white oak, which, well, that died from a disease, but we saw several of those white pine that broke off and made benches. There's a really nice bench near the entrance that was, I just took the chainsaw and made that bench there was a couple other benches that I made from the blowdown. I don't remember. Yeah, I sawed a couple of logs. There was 3 or 4 really nice logs of the bigger ones. And I got a stack there by my barn of what I call bridge decking. There's a bridge there next to my house between the 2 ponds, of which one's on the Starke County Forest and the other one's not. This is a bridge just between the 2. And there's a little bridge in the pathway going back to the observation tower. They're all white pine. They need to be replaced. So we got the logs just laying there. So I sawed up a whole big stack of bridge decking. So it'll be there for the next 30 years. You guys won't have to worry about bridge decking for 30 years. The white pine will last about 10 years before it gets kind of rotten. But anyway, so we also did not cut down most of those a lot of the white pine broke off up at the top. They're just a dead snag with the top broken out of them. I would say there's a dozen of them out there at least. We left them because of the birds. That's the kind of thing we'll talk about on this hike. Why did we leave those dead snags there? Well, the bats aren't birds, but bats sleep every night underneath the blue spark that's caused there. The one tree we're going to show that's got like 10 different, it's got so many woodpecker holes in it. And the woodpeckers and all kinds of birds eat insects that are attracted to these dead snags. But the woodpeckers are the main ones. So it'll be an example. It looks a little rough that we didn't cut down these dead snags. But there's a reason why we didn't, because it contributes greatly to the wildlife. And so that'll be the kind of thing we talk about during the World Environment Day. We got on Arbor Day, we tried to talk them out of it and tried to get them to come out and do it on our day on the June the 5th. But the County Historic Society wants to donate it, wants to plant a white oak somewhere in commemoration of the 250th anniversary of our country. They've been asked to do that by some national organization. I guess maybe the National Historical Society or whatever. Anyway, so they wanted to plant the white oak out there in the Starke County Forest somewhere. And the circle in the driveway, the circle loop where the parking lot is, we originally planted wildlife flowers, native wildlife flowers, native flowers. And those only have a certain life expectancy. The evolution, takes over and other plants move in. And so it was getting to the point where it needed to be redone. And so, okay, we'll let them plant their white oak right in the middle of the circle. And they're going to do that on Arbor Day. And she's going to have a couple of vendors there to talk. She's going to have somebody from the wildlife people, I think, to talk about, because I probably aren't, at the moment, I'm not going to make it for that particular meeting, but she's going to have some educational stuff available. It won't just, they're going to plant that white oak in the middle of that on Arbor Day and have a little ceremony of some kind. But I needed to do something with the rest of it. That's one tree in the middle. And they've made arrangements to get that white oak into their plant. So I needed, now that I killed everything back so I could start over, and I tilled it, and I think I'm gonna plant some wildlife shrubs, native to the property. And I've already ordered some hazelnut and some buttonbush, and I'm gonna try to get in some flowering dogwood, some elderberry, and some of the native blueberry. So it'll be all natural plants right from the property, and it'll all be good for the birds. Not only the nest there, but all those produce berries and nuts and stuff, and seeds, the button bushes. So that's my intention, is to plant wildlife shrubs in that, before, after, and during their ceremony, probably, because we'll be trying to do it all at once. I have a question about the parking lot. I was not really I was not particularly involved in the parking lot when it was built. It became obvious not long after we had the park board that the parking lot that I had originally made wasn't holding up, which was a good thing. I mean, it was getting used, but it was starting to wear out, and it was starting to be a little muddy in a couple of places. And so the park board at that time decided we needed a new parking lot, and they got a grant. I think it was a harness foundation or whatever, and I think they got $15,000 or $20,000 to build a parking lot. And Rick, the highway superintendent at the time, was on the park board, and he kind of headed the whole thing up, and they pretty well handled it. And so they didn't need me, so I just sat back and watched. It was my understanding that the reason they designed it as a drive-through loop was so that in the winter, the snowplow could just go in, go around it, and go back out. That was my understanding. Now, I don't know for sure that that's right, but that's my understanding. And so they made it to county road standards so that could be done. If it wasn't built to county road standards, they wouldn't be able to take the snowplow around through there. And in fact, he at one time, Rick was his first name, right?
Yeah.
Rick Ritzler. Yeah. At one time, he told me that he actually thinks that parking lots built better quality than Division Road was. Even though it's crushed stone, it was built to county road standards, and who knows if that Division Road, how long it has been there, so he said it's actually a well built road. But nobody's ever really done the snow plowing thing. And of course, we talked about just before that it's been pretty snowy. And so, my question is, if they did bring the snow plow in there, do we really want them to do that? Or will the snow, because it's not paved, it's just crushed up? Will the snow plow just end up plowing the stone out? I don't know if they can plow.
I don't know, that'd be probably a question maybe to ask.
Yeah, the highway department.
If they can plow, which I'm suspicious that maybe they can.
Yeah.
But if they can plow it, I would like to see it plowed.
Okay.
But people can use it still.
They actually, I was surprised.
They're using it anyway, so.
They're using it anyway.
Yeah.
I went back there like 2 days after the heaviest snow and there was all kinds of tracks out there. And people have been hiking the trails, there's some brave souls out there trumping the snow. But so it got used even though it wasn't plowed, but I think it would have been, and I remember thinking it would have been nice to have this plowed, but not at the expense of them destroying the ground.
Yeah.
And so I would like to ask the park board to
Yeah,
ask the question.
we'll find out.
And was it designed for that, like was my understanding? And if so, well, let's do it.
Yeah.
If we can do it without doing damage.
Yeah, we'll find out.
So if it's gonna do damage, just forget it.
Yeah.
But
It just won't get it as clean, that's all.
Yeah.
yeah, whatever. It would be nice if they did plow it.
Okay.
Because like I said, he told me
Yeah.
that that's why it was designed as a loop like that.
Okay.
So that would be one request. We bought 2 or 3 years ago, I bought. It was only 200, it was really cheap, a roller for cross-country skiing. We could pull it with a snowmobile and it was like this big roller and it would smash the snow down and make it compact it so it would be really good. So you don't have to plow through, big. Anyway, so I got it out on my tractor and drove, and it worked really good. The day after the big snow, it worked really good. And I pulled it with my tractor. You don't need a snow plow.
Right.
She's got this 4-wheeler thing. that would-
Well, not anymore.
Oh, you don't know?
No,
She doesn't have a snow 4-wheeler.
now they,
But a piece of equipment like that would be fine if
Mhm.
somebody did. So you don't need a snowmobile to pull it. And just a little four-wheel drive tractor. So if every year was like this is starting out, I think we should do that because I did the research on it 2 or 3 years ago when I bought this thing and Tippecanoe River State Park and Potato Creek State Park do no longer have cross-country skiing because of the same reason. They both gave me the exact same reason as that there just wasn't enough snow or weather, if anybody doesn't believe in global warming, just ask these 2 state parks. They both quit because there was no longer enough snow and enough interest. And so I thought, well, maybe that's all the more reason why we should do cross-country skiing out there because we would focus everybody that, the few people
Yeah.
that are interested, at least have one place to go.
yeah,
The closest other place would be St. Patrick's Park in South Bend. That's the closest place otherwise. That they're still doing it. They're the ones I talked to about what piece of equipment to buy. And they said, well, 90% of the time, all we use is this roller thing. And I bought it and it worked great. I see that's why it's all they use. And well, it even worked great just for hiking. Just my experimenting around made it a heck of a lot easier to hike out there too. It wasn't just the cross country skiing. So it could be used anyway. So that's if you're going to have cross country skiing, it might be better to plow the parking lot. That's how those things are all connected. Okay. You got anything else?
can't think of anything.
I got a question. Amy, this is, because you used to teach, how can we get younger people interested and involved in this?
Well,
I think
that's
this would be a
a
great thing for the schools to get involved in.
So I talked to Jamie Shireman, who's the elementary science teacher, about maybe starting with a field trip in the spring, but since Bruce isn't gonna be there, I will wanna wait until fall when he would be there. But Jamie's interested in starting to have field trips out there, and I think we could get Culver, not all the Stark County schools out there. I think that's one thing, but that is something I've been trying to think. And then I went to that DNR class and I have a bunch of wetland lessons that I can teach out there myself. And I would like to do that. That's kind of,
Yeah, well, I
Something-
think it's really important to get young people
Me
involved
too.
in conservation
I do too.
and the natural, because we're losing that. I mean,
Yeah, we
as
are.
a country, so.
Well, and speaking of the World Environment Day,
Yeah.
last year was art, and so I was talking to Bruce about, we're only gonna do that every other year. And so then the other year, we're gonna call it conservation at the forest, and I do wanna, maybe we can think of a way to get some kids out there too. But yeah, I think the scavenger hunt that went on last fall kind of got some interest. I think simple things like that we can do. But
But I think there's a lot to learn by
Yeah.
doing this.
I agree.
Yeah, at least that way they can look at a property and know it's just not a property with a bunch of trees and that's it. You know,
Right.
It's more than that.
Yeah.
Read that first half of that book.
Yeah.
You'll never look at it the same again, ever.
I agree.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Bruce. We
Thank
appreciate it.
you. Is that the kind of thing you want?
Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
I figured it was appropriate, that's why I did it, but you never know what's the board.
No, I think it's wonderful. And I think, like I say, I think the more people that we can get interested in the conservation aspects of the natural beauty that we have and preserve it, I think it's very important.
Mhm.
So I appreciate that. Okay. Next thing I have is a Bass Lake Campground electric update.
Well, we were hoping John McCurry, the building inspector, would be able to make it. Thank you, Bruce.
Thanks for
Talk to you later in the week or next week. Maybe
Yeah.
you can come
Yeah.
into the beach
Give me a
house next
call
week.
or email me so we can get a time to meet to get some measurements and
Okay,
so I can get to the point where I can actually start making that.
okay.
Thanks for
Awesome.
Cool beans.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Bruce.
So John had knee surgery yesterday. He was limping around today. And he didn't say anything. I don't know if he forgot about us.
He said he would try to come, but I didn't hear from him today, so I'm guessing.
Amy and I talked last week. I think, my personal opinion is, I think it's really important that we go ahead with this electrical thing, okay? I think it's a mistake to try and do it piecemeal. I think we should go all in on it and do it all at once and get it done as soon as possible. The other thing, I talked to Amy, and I don't know what, this RDF, if that's what it's called.
RF.
Whatever it is. I told Amy to get a hold of SRAM and find out if we have to have that, if that's a requirement. Because I don't want to, I know the county's saying we don't need it. But if it's a statutory thing and we've got to do it, then we've got to convince the county people that we got to do it. Because I don't want to screw this thing up.
You know, I think the requirement is if it's over, if you expect it to be, which the whole job would be, more than $50,000, then you have to have it.
You
So,
have to have it if it's over 100 to 150. You have
well,
to
the
have
budget would be over
the
there.
whole thing, exactly. So you have to have the study or the RFP with that, and then you have to have sealed bids.
Yeah.
But our problem is our commissioner said, yes, let's do the study. Our council said, no.
No.
But why is the council saying no?
They didn't want to pay for it and they didn't
Well,
let
they
us
didn't even
use,
want, they didn't even want to let us.
use our own
the
money.
Park board used our own money to do the stuff,
But why?
because I think,
Did they give us a reason?
not
Yes,
necessarily, but I
They
think. what-
said no, they said that we didn't have the money and that they were
We're
gonna
gonna
pay
give
for
it
it.
to us, yeah.
And I think where it's going is that they weren't sure how the budgets were gonna come out this year. And we still don't know, budgets really haven't been approved and won't until like the end of December or January. If we have to cut anything or if we don't.
Right.
And I think they were thinking that they're not gonna have that kind of money.
So I got a question though, even, I know you don't wanna do it kind of the piecemeal, but even if we do get an RFP. That is the overall project, but also takes into account maybe doing it in stages. Is that possible or not?
That I'm not sure of.
I'm not sure either. And the problem is, and we're never gonna know if we don't do an RFP, I guess. That's the problem.
15 grand or whatever.
We're just not gonna know what we have to do and what we're dealing with unless we get this study.
Right.
And I mean, we could go in mass, I guess, or as a group in front of the council and talk to them, or maybe I know, I know some people are on the council. I could approach, if you know people on the council, we could approach them individually and try to bribe them and convince them and tell them, you know, hey, we really need to. It seems so foolish to me. Because I figured it out one time, if it were $550,000 to do this, which I don't think it would be, but if it is, 5 years, you would recoup that. I mean, it's just so silly not to do it. Because Amy and I were talking, you're gonna get your money back. I mean, this is a big money maker for the county over the long haul, and what do they say?
Penny wise,
Penny
pound
wise,
foolish.
pound foolish. I mean, it just makes no sense to me. And Amy and I were talking, and if we did upgrade this electric, we could probably expand the campground if we wanted to at some future date, because there's more land there.
Well, and I know there's a couple of them who, or at least one, who has an idea of putting, a couple of cabins out there and, to where you can rent the cabins out and they would need additional electric than what we have today, so.
Yeah.
And
But if anybody's got any suggestions on how we approach this and how we get this done,
why did we go to the council in the first place? Why did we need to go to them?
I was
Just not
sent,
our own-
I was sent there. Well, because we needed to move the money from the cash reserve. We didn't have
Oh,
in any one part, we had the money, but not in any one part of our budget. And so they didn't want to move around or,
do we look at like right after the first of the year to see if there's any way where we could fund that study our own through the budget we had beginning January 1st? I mean, it was only, it was like 17,000 or something, right?
Yeah. But we're gonna be a little bit over on our renovation money also. We're gonna be over on that.
that was our next thing.
But I mean, we have to wait and see what we have next year once we get there, but I mean, that might be an approach. We can still talk to the council people and see if we can get
Sure.
them to go along with it.
uh,
Cause by the end of the year, what do you think the cash balance is gonna be? Cause we used, last time, I think we carried over like 130.
Yeah.
And now we're down to like 99 or something.
Mhm.
But that makes sense though, cause we spent all that extra money on the roofs.
Mhm.
So.
There'll be a little bit more in there and we don't have very any bills to
We
speak of.
should be over 90 at the end of the.
Yeah, and then-
To the first,
Yeah.
to 26.
Mhm. I think we have to convince them somehow too. I think maybe they thought, well, can't we just get this done without having to go through that and spend the extra money? But it's kind of looking like maybe, I don't think we can.
I think what we have to look at though first is, I think one of the things in his earlier proposal, John's proposal, is we have to go out there and just identify the pedestal, so we have to drop down to 30 amps. Going for this next season. So if we don't have anything in place by
well,
next
yeah,
year.
if we don't get.
We're not likely gonna have anything done by the beginning of spring anyway.
So that would be back to the normal amperage, right? 30?
Well, no, and there was only so many of them that doubled at the 250 amps or whatever, we have to look at. And that was fairly cheap to do that, but,
But those large campers out there aren't gonna run on 30.
well,
No, they're.
yeah, well.
Yeah, but you can't-
Well, they will have a double of fuses,
But I mean, when that park was built, was it all 30 amps? I'm guessing at the time.
Well, actually, if you look,
I should say last time you updated.
actually, if you look at our online, what it says is that's all we offer is 30 amp.
Mhm.
If you look at the online Heartboard site, it says we offer 30 amp and it doesn't say anywhere in it that we offer more than that.
Mhm.
Because 30 amp used to be the standard.
I'm just saying that that's right on the site when people are looking at the
Yeah,
vinyl stuff.
yeah.
I just think there has to be some way to convince these people. That
This is a long-term thing that the
Of
council
course.
has to, I mean, you don't turn your profit right now.
Mhm.
But if you want this for the future for the county, you have to put money in to get money out.
Well, exactly. Yeah, well, but
Easier said than
people
done.
are funny. People are funny about things, but
Maybe
anyway,
in January we'll
yeah.
be.
And I think we really need to to do a full court press on this if we can and try to get it done, because I think it's gonna make a big difference.
Did we get any like rough estimates?
We got
Some-
one back from, Lake, oh gosh, forget the name now. Live Oak. And they went ahead and bid everything, so all 50 amp pedestals, meters, new wire, all of it. And I think it came in at about 250. But it was much under
Yeah,
what we thought that it was
Okay,
gonna be.
so we have some general idea, but
but we don't know about the
We-
underground.
well, we don't know for sure because they didn't go through this bidding process, so.
But if anybody's got any ideas, I think we need to.
Because I know,
I think we need to get something from our attorney saying that it's absolutely necessary
Yes,
that we do this study, that it's a statutory thing and you can't get around it.
yes.
And then start there and then go from there.
Okay, I did email Justin twice, and so as soon as I hear back from him, I will let you guys know that.
Yeah.
We really don't know until we go forth from there.
because what I remember from the council meeting is they seem to think we can do some design build, which I'm not sure what they mean by that. And the commissioners were okay with us doing the study.
Yeah.
And they said the design build would save us the cost of the study. And that we could do it without an
Yeah, I
actual,
remember that.
an actual study, but I'm not sure how you
But
do
what
that.
I'm saying is if it's a statutory thing, if it's required, it's required.
It's required for the amount of money that it will cost.
Yeah.
And we have a pretty good
But
idea.
we have an idea,
But
but
we know it's gonna be over 150.
with that study, it comes back and tells you this is how much all this is gonna be, and then you get your bids. They have to meet the.
The bids go off of the study, right? The study tells them what it is that they actually have to bid on,
Yes,
Mhm.
of what the work.
and then when the bids come in, they have to meet everything in that study. Whether they didn't bid enough money or not, it's on them because they're doing everything in that study.
It's kind of like you did with the building.
Well, and if we get, I wouldn't know I don't know how to handle electrical engineering questions, and so that would be something else the study does, is they not only collect the bids, check the bids, make sure they're properly done, but then they answer all questions
They
and
show up on site,
Yeah.
they deal with everything. We don't deal with anything until it's done.
Right, who does the studies?
So right now.
United
who is it?
Consulting is who
United
we
Consulting is
got
the
a
only
bid
one
from.
that we could get to actually give us a quote for one.
but maybe we can,
Try and get-
And do
try to
they have a good
companies.
reputation? So
the
That's
highway
who-
department uses
Uh-huh.
them.
that's who they.
But there are other consultings, and maybe we can try to get other quotes or see, maybe that would help.
Okay, well, I just want everybody to think about it
Okay,
and like I say, if you run into council people or. I thought the commissioners were kind of on our side.
They were supportive. I think
They
they
were.
passed it, us using,
But they
moving
can't,
the money, but they're not the ones who.
they
voted
can't, yeah,
any.
they can't influence
I
the.
had to ask them first, and
Council.
then they approved it, and then my next.
And then the council just,
Shut it down.
well, they shut it down because they didn't want us spending the money on a study they didn't think was
Yes.
needed. But I don't know. I wasn't convinced as to how they came to that conclusion. I'm not. And when we brought it up to the commissioners, they looked at us like
Well, I think that's why we need something from Shram to. If it's a statutory thing, then they have to agree to it.
well, he represents both of them, right? The council and the commissioners. Maybe he can
Yeah.
at least talk to them and say, you guys have a disagreement here. How do we proceed?
Yeah,
Because we don't want to take either one of them off.
no, we're not trying to do that.
No,
If we get it done, we want it done.
yeah,
So,
well, and it's foolish not to do it.
right.
Okay, next thing is Bass Lake Beach and Campground renovation update.
Well, there's not much to update. We're still,
We still haven't gotten a confirmation.
So Brown and Brown, I talked to Mike Reese yesterday from Troyer, and he's coordinating with Brown and Brown. They still have 2 doors to seal. And they're gonna change out one. They are gonna give us some sealer, and then once that's done, then we're done, but that hasn't been done yet. And so luckily Teresa's been working on she made a spreadsheet to figure out where we're at. It does look like I made an error when I went in front of in the spring to get the roof and the insulation. Well, first of all, Krista from Troyer, who isn't employed with them anymore, I kind of thought, she said, I think we'll have plenty to cover this, so don't worry about it. But I guess I thought we got billed then. I just figured I had never been through this process before. So all this to say, we got to the end, I thought we already got billed, paid for it, and we didn't. So we are a little over, or 24.
24 over, I believe.
Which is right about what they gave us to spend for the insulation, what it was, but we
So we-
put it in the budget, but not in any
So
one.
we owe 24 over what the grant has.
Yeah, we're not done paying yet. We haven't paid was the last 2 payments because they haven't completed their work.
Yeah, I don't wanna pay them until they.
Yeah.
Right.
When are they gonna complete it?
Well, I'm not sure. I don't think it would take very long.
Who are you working with at Troy?
Now I work with Mike Reese.
Okay, get a hold of him. I think it's absolutely up to Troyer to put these people's feet to the fire. That's their job. They were supposed to manage this damn thing, and they've done a terrible job. Krista was horrible. I'll say it
I
publicly.
agree.
She didn't do anything that I think should have been done out there. Now, is the handicap parking situation,
Yep.
is that fixed?
Yes, that is fixed and they took care of that. That didn't come out of our budget at all. Mike Reese has stepped up quite a bit and he always gets me, I'll just ask him. I talked to him yesterday and he said he'd reach out to the owner of Brown and Brown and find out. So he seems to be on it and he's surprised, very surprised that this isn't long since punched out.
Yeah, well, I am too, but and really, we've got time.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't need to, but it'd be nice to wrap this up.
It would.
Well,
It's
and
gone
yeah,
on, it's
yeah.
gone on long.
Yeah, and the reality is he shouldn't be surprised because he's over Krista, so I mean, that's.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Okay, enough of that.
I will hope to say it was done, but it's not, so, but now we know, and we'll just keep on.
Did he at least estimate how many man hours this is? Is this like a half a day or a couple hours or?
It can't be, it's probably half a day. I mean, it can't be much, it's just, yeah. And
What do you say you want to get their payment?
the superintendent on the job did text me last week. And he said he has the sealer and when he comes, he said to do the doorknob, he'd give it to me. I don't know that he knows yet that he still has to fix those doors. I don't know.
Was there any kind of penalty provision in it?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either. Should have been.
Yeah.
Okay,
Live and learn.
superintendent.
Hopefully we won't go through this again for a while.
Yeah. Superintendent.
Okay. We didn't have November's meeting and I'm not gonna go through all of my minutes on that, but I am just gonna say I would like to publicly thank Jason Clemens and the Knox City Sanitation and Tom Jordan from the Bass Lake Conservancy District for all their help getting the lift station pumped out. There was they got jammed up or filled with something. Actually, I know what it was, but it doesn't really matter. They got blocked. So I was a little worried. I didn't know what to do. I got a hold of these 2 guys. They've been helping me and advising me since I started. It's been very nice. And Jason came and he will bill us, but he brought the city truck out. It was kind of an emergency. It needed to be done right away. So they got it done. And I appreciate both of them. And I appreciate Bev and I and Tom Bush. We have been working on the floors. Yeah, so Tom was in his army days of using the polisher, and Bev and I were.
I told people how to use those.
No.
Yeah, so I used them a lot in the army.
Oh, yeah.
Tell you, before Tom, I had to.
We got all bruised, like thinners, blood thinners, and it was like that, when I got home the next day, I was like, holy smokes.
It was, well, if you know Friends, it was like the episode where Monica uses the force scrubber and I almost did spin around. Or Lucy and Ethel in the candy factory. It was so hard. We had to call Tom and anyway, we didn't get done before the water got shut off. So we still have to do that in the spring. So we kind of just think we got in a groove and we're just doing it the old fashioned way, but the color is coming through of the bricks and we're really happy about that.
Oh, good.
The campground's winterized, so let me switch to my December notes. So we did the deposit thing on the contracts and we have all but 5 of them back. And I think of those, even a few of those so there'll be a few spots to fill. So we have 5 out of 52.
So there are deposits on all but 5,
Yes.
seasonal.
Yes, so we think there's between, if we go back to having 5 weekend spots, we think that might be best next year because there's so much, we'll see what happens, but there was a lot of interest in seasonal and honestly, it is easier if I had a website, if we had the website, might be different, but as of now, I don't know yet. I'm working on getting that too. I've been in contact with the bank and I'm working on trying to get the banking account so we can get the thing online and that will make everything easier. But as far as the deposits, people were happy to pay them. And I got a lot of good feedback that they thought it was a good thing. As far as winter storage at the campground, we have 20 campers being stored at 350 about, and last year we only had 16, so that's good. For shore station storage, we have 22 paid lifts. We have one of them out there is Bass Lake Fire Department. I'm not going to charge them. And that's up from 17 last year. So that's a little extra, revenue.
Is that money that's deposit money? Is that like in this year's budget or is that not figured in yet?
So I've been putting the deposits into this year's budget and then, so basically it'll help our rollover. And then everybody will pay the rest in February and April or just
Yeah.
February.
I mean, the money's going in, doesn't really change any budget numbers, but what it does do is you have more cash available going into the next year than
Yeah.
you would have if you hadn't gotten it until next
It
year.
really helped in ways I
It's
didn't.
to make sure to cover costs that
Yes,
are budgeted that maybe we didn't have enough funds for.
yes.
Because I remember in years past where you had no money left after the end of the year to pay the beginning of the next year, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
We haven't been in that spot for budget wise, I think you're right, but cash wise, we've always been pretty flush
Mhm.
for the last 4 years. Anyway.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't think up till this year, you guys never really dipped into the cash reserves. So good thing because we needed them this year. The Highway 23 kayak launch is complete. The last bill for the parking lot was submitted. And I'll plan a grand opening for the spring for that.
That's that one out there by the,
By Dr. Fritz.
holy smoke, that. I pulled down into there and I guess I have to wait until spring to go.
I know.
But it was dangerous driving down there to me, but.
Well,
Now that the road's in.
yeah.
That's in,
hopefully the parking lot will make it better, but
it was pretty narrow.
Yeah.
What, get down to the,
Get down to the actual launch in the parking lot.
I know,
It's kind of a weird entrance. I mean, it's not like you expect anything to be there.
yeah,
So there's 2 now?
yep,
Yeah.
2 official.
Yeah, the one is the,
Yep, the Highway 23 one's done and the English Week one is done.
Right.
city,
Another one?
city never did theirs, did they?
They are, I think, either gonna be done in the spring.
Or there is a
Yeah,
one.
yep.
Yes.
Tom, were you saying the path to get the kayaks is narrow?
no, not for the guy, I'm just talking about. Just to go past it, I mean, 5 times trying to figure out where it was even. So it's like, it's right on the one side of the guardrail, but it looks like you're pulling into nothing. You
Yeah.
know, it doesn't look
Definitely
like there'd
need
be an
some
entrance to
signage.
anything there doesn't look like to be an interest in anything there. I'd be worried about people pulling in. whatever.
Do we need to sign it?
Yeah, I'm gonna write.
Let's
Yeah,
that.
ask
because
Good
that-
idea.
'cause it was like, didn't expect it to be there. You got there and open, you can kind of see.
You were looking for it.
Yeah, before I couldn't find it.
Yeah. we need to
Well,
sign.
one thing that's a bummer is that Otis Printing is out of business, so the people who I would usually call to get my signs are out. So,
Try the highway department.
oh, that's a good idea.
I know when Rick was here, they used to make some signs.
Yeah, they have you're right, I forgot about that. Okay, so speaking of events, event planning's underway. Bruce talked about the Arbor Day celebration. I hope you guys can come, and I think I'll read something for Bruce if he can't make it back. I hope he can, but he just can or can't.
So are those people planting the tree gonna coordinate with you getting out there, or? Maybe just double check with him to make sure that they have your number so that somebody.
Well, Gwen Rents is heading up that committee, so
Who is?
Gwen Rents, the surveyor, so she'll let me know if, whatever I need.
Yeah, do it till spring.
Yeah, and speaking of Gwen, she's also on another committee with me for a Tea Party reenactment event. That is to be held on Mother's Day at Bass Lake. I'll be attending the first planning meeting for this event tomorrow.
I don't think it's that kind of tea party.
No, Bruce was me about getting.
Yeah, you.
To see if he could use my pontoon boat. I don't know if it'll be in by then, but
Wait, this winter's going, you still have ice on the.
Yeah, really.
yeah, to dump the tea off the pontoon boat.
No, we gotta make it happen.
Yeah, they're gonna decorate the
So
pontoon.
it's gonna be like a Boston tea.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
That's what Bruce wants to do.
250th celebration, so the 250th committee is getting some of the it's a fundraiser for
We're gonna
them
do
and the
that?
Parks Department.
Any Indians?
I think that's Bruce Bennett. It's
You
gonna
guys
be
just
the
gotta give
Indian.
me the dates when the boat has to be in the water or available for duration.
Okay,
So I can make sure Larry has it.
okay. I think it's gonna be Mother's Day.
Might be able to do.
We pontoon, right?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, the fire department has a pontoon, right?
that's a good idea. Okay.
That might get me out of it.
Don't count on it. It's being okay, so this event is being put on by a couple area Masons, the Mason organization, the 250th committee and us, and it's a fundraiser to be split between the Parks Department and the 250th committee. We have a lot of neat ideas.
For fundraising.
Mhm. And then I'm meeting with the Luana Lake Committee later in the month. We're already working on that. And the June 5th, Bruce talked about the World Environment Day conservation at the forest with the birds as the theme. There'll be other events, but that's that's what I'm working on now. And then finally, I wanted to thank Bruce Bennett and Mike Stark for volunteering to help clear the overgrown area near the playground by the beach. Bruce introduced me to Mr. Stark. I've met him before, but he's our neighbor. And so Mike has a Christmas or a tree farm on 25 North. And so he is also a forester and he knows Bruce. They all know each other, of course. Bruce Wakeland helped Mike Stark get his tree farm in operation. So between all of them, Bruce Wakeland, Bruce Bennett, Mike Stark, they have a lot of expertise. They have all the equipment, the know-how, all the things that we're going to clean up that area. And then Mike Stark said that after he's already started going through and getting out the invasives. He's worked quite a bit on it already. I'd like to get him some help in the spring.
He was out there the one day I was out
Yeah.
there with his chainsaw.
Basic bittersweet.
Right.
He might have even been out there yesterday, but that might have been an ice fisherman too. It looked like his truck. But he said he's willing to help keep it managed going forward. So that's pretty cool.
Great.
And that is it for the superintendent report, for the financial report. Just that should say November. This is November's financial report. If you guys want to, pass one of these down, you can. The extras. This is the financial report. So you know, just for November, we brought in about 18.8, and we expended a lot more. Joel finished taking out the piers, or just a lot of like bills in that month. So for the year, from January to December 8th, we have brought in 405,000. And we've spent 305, so that's good. And then, so our cash budget is now, you know, we'll have about 100, a little over
The
100.
405 includes the carryover, right?
No, oh,
Yeah, I think so. I think it does.
that I am unclear
Yeah,
about.
I think it actually does. The carryover is added into the receipts. If you look at the ledger, but we should just double check that.
Okay,
I think that's, it's not that we actually brought in that much
So we got 100,000 in cash,
cash, right?
and they won't let us do a $17,000.
Well, that's what I'm saying, after the first of the year, I guess I'm not really quite sure if we know. We really look at the budget and see if there is money in one of the accounts, so we can move it within the account to actually pay for this. What would, if we were gonna do it, what would we pay it out of? Which area of the budget will we pay it out of? And let's just see how much money's in there. For the first of the year, because it's all, the budget money gets all refurbished after the first of the year.
Yeah, I know,
So there might be enough in there just to do it.
might be, but
I
I'd
think
I'd
they-
like to get approval.
yeah.
Even that still wouldn't go over well if we just did it.
No.
Well, they might be more willing to let us do it if it's just, they don't have to move anything.
Yeah, if we can
around.
show them that we. No,
Okay.
I don't know.
Who knows, yeah.
So we're still, of course, the beach entry isn't gonna move. We went up a little bit in piers for the shore stations, and I have a few more to collect. I think 5 more.
Door stations?
Yeah, and then campground rental, that'll just keep growing to as we collect the deposits, and so that's where we're sitting right now.
And then we should have, like, we usually have in like February or early March, kind of get together with the peer stuff. And
I
just
think
make
we
sure-
should do it
or
January.
whatever, in some dates so that we can, because I would think the way we approach it is whoever had a spot last year has the same spot this year, and then,
Well, that's the way we've been doing it.
yeah, and just keep that same process and make sure the people know that.
I'd be happy to talk about it in January, so I could
Okay.
send out contracts mid-February and get them back by April 1st even.
Yeah.
Because that, I think if we could do something similar with the piers like we did the campground, we won't have to prorate.
Yeah, no.
Good. I'm looking forward to this summer. The beach.
Me too.
Are we gonna have snacks and that?
Mhm.
Okay.
Well, the concession, you know, is, I think, gonna be a big draw, but we are gonna need, I mean, for instance, for these events, we're gonna need to buy round tables.
Yeah.
And like for the concession stand, there's no there's no shelving, there's no there's not even a refrigerator. We really are at ground zero. We're just gonna have to grow it bit by bit as much as we can.
Get that big white oak table.
Well, no, and we ought to really kind of look around and make sure the vendors that do come in.
Well, that's another thing.
Yeah.
We're gonna have vendors, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And how much more help are we gonna need?
Well, I don't know. I don't know yet. I think last year, I really wish I would have had someone, I thought I had someone to clean bathrooms and clean, and that didn't work out, so I did that. I would like to,
Yeah, no,
Bill,
that's not your
yeah.
job.
well, and it just took time out of, I should have been doing something else, so I need that.
Yeah.
And beyond that, I think we're figuring it out. I mean,
With the rate increase, though, we should have some additional funds to be able to utilize for those types of things
Yeah,
this year going forward, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean,
I
you
have
know,
to send somebody to school for the food for the concessions to be licensed or trained.
no, basically, as long as it's not, if we're not preparing like cooking food, if it's just pre-prepared food, you really don't have to do much. I did have the lady, the food, Chrissy.
Health department?
Health department. She came and checked everything already and she told me what I have to do if, and she said if we're really just having nachos and coffee and things like that, it's not, and that's what we'll start with. We won't do anything too
So
crazy.
even if you have like one of those hot dog rotisseries or whatever, you still.
Could be that, and I don't even think that, I think that's kind of like with the nachos, it's not,
the
you
same
just get a
thing.
little certificate and it's not that big of a deal.
Cause that's what we ought to probably stick to start.
But I'll tell you,
Yeah,
Beth and
since-
I were talking about those coffees this summer were huge. And I think we should just sell our own coffee. And
Their coffee.
Yeah.
people drink iced coffee all day long.
Oh, yeah.
I think we should just have it out of the concession stand and that. One of our teenagers, Harper Hazelton, is got a lot of concession stand experience and she knows how to make the lemon shake-ups from the fair. She's ready. She said, I know how to make, I'll learn to make coffee and I know how to make lemon shake-ups.
So
So
then is it possible to have a plan by, say, like February about what we're going to do over the summer? You know, and what types
Like
of events,
sell-
what we're gonna start with.
yeah,
I mean, actually,
plan, but
it's
something.
an outline of it, and as to things we're gonna try to,
Absolutely.
And things like freezers and refrigerators and
what's needed.
Wish list on things we
microwaves
need.
or whatever we think we
Okay.
need, that kind of.
Well, I know one of our other employees, Mary Reinhold, will be home from college over Christmas break, so I'm hoping she can help us maybe with a Google Calendar, get us set up with some things.
Does Bruce really, does he have any idea of the funds he thinks he's gonna generate from this Tea Party thing, or does he have an idea of how much it's actually
Bruce,
gonna be?
no, I don't know,
Okay,
yeah. But I think it could be basically what his idea is, two kind of things. One for more like like a cheaper option for everyone to come in, watch the reenactment, spend a little, a little bit to get in. Then he'd like to do a short fireworks display after and maybe have, you remember when we had the luau, we had Bohemian Beverage and she sold teas and lemonades and I thought that'd be perfect.
where are the funds for like the fireworks? Is that coming from the county?
He's working on that through maybe the Masons or getting a grant or I will have this meeting tomorrow, we'll see, but the other part of it is he wants to have a dinner where the Masons are in costume and that's what we need the tables for. So, and we'll get all the details more later, but it could be a good moneymaker.
No, there's a guy up here that advertises in the Lakes magazine. He has a trailer and he drops it at your place and it's stocked with chairs and tables. You use what you need, load it up when you're done, he comes, picks it up.
Oh, wow.
He advertises in the Lakes magazine.
Okay, that's good to know.
I mean, sure, eventually you'll probably wanna buy it, but
Yeah.
until you can, he just drops the trailer for you. I don't know what it costs or anything. You use what
So
you need.
it's the one price regardless of how many tables you use.
I don't know. He doesn't advertise the price in the book, so unless you call and talk, you won't know.
Yeah,
But
predictive
I thought-
pricing. Oh, Stark County Parks, you say?
Yeah.
But I just thought that
Government.
the idea he has is fantastic.
Right.
Yeah, it is a good idea. It really is.
Most people can't pick it up.
Yeah,
Yeah, and at the property owners, we don't let that go outside the building,
Right.
tables and
Yeah,
stuff.
But somebody tried before and they won't do it.
Yeah,
you can talk to John Lewandowski,
the Lakes guy.
he's the Lakes guy.
oh,
He's the editor or something, or publisher. or
Yeah, he's a
whatever.
publisher, yeah, so he,
and he's a Bass Lake person.
yeah, he is a good like, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, anything else that anybody wants to talk about? We should probably adjourn the meeting. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
How far was that?
We're all
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Everybody, get home safe.
Hi, guys.